Well, hello again, friends. Welcome to Investment Immigration Conversations. I'm your host, Carolyn Lee, principal and founder of Carolyn Lee PLLC, a U.S. investment immigration firm helping clients build their futures with investment immigration. I am here to share a very special presentation with Elisa Miller-Out of Chloe Capital. And the purpose of this webcast is to continue our summer CBI E-2 series and to share with you at a very high level information related to a channel for investment immigration to the United States. And this is a channel that I've been working on with Chloe Capital, with Elisa for the last 9 months. Chloe Capital is a venture capital fund dedicated to funding women in innovation. And it has a base right here in gorgeous Ithaca. Who would think? So I'm really going to hand the mic over to Elisa very, very soon to share information about the amazing work and mission of Chloe Capital. And not to worry, I'll hop back in and we'll talk about the E-2 visa and its process as well. But before we do that, I want to share with you the larger goal, the real reason I feel we're here and we put this event together. And it's a glimpse into my own journey of how we're here. I founded Carolyn Lee PLLC in 2019 because I felt that there was more to my practice. There was more to U.S. investment immigration than the narrow confines in which I had been scribbling away for 15 years. I believe that. I believe there were opportunities. And that was the motivation behind founding my own firm, which is what we're talking about today. We're talking about women taking risks, building, innovating, founding things, creating things, and building connections. So I got underway doing this. And in 2020, COVID hit. And while I was in this big expansion mode, we were all boxed in. And true to what I set out for myself, I saw that this was an opportunity supported by intrepid conference organizers who are adapting to virtual conference platforms and yes, to Zoom. I found that I was able to actually expand my reach beyond what I could have hoped to do if I were physically traveling to Shanghai and Beijing and Korea, which are the first destinations I hit physically when I opened shop in 2019. So despite COVID, despite all of us being boxed in, I was able to visit Shanghai and Berlin and Taiwan and Lagos and Dubai and Sao Paulo and many, many other places. And of course, Manhattan and Dallas and LA and Chicago and Ithaca. So it was really in this mode that I discovered Chloe Capital, and I think it was on LinkedIn. And I thought, wow, this is exactly what the world needs. This is so exciting. And so I was digging around and trying to get information about it. And then I discovered that the managing principal and founder is Elisa, who looked so familiar. And it's because she's a parent of a child who's in the same school as my child. So I'd seen her in these, school events. So I just, that as I was discovering more about Chloe, and I think this is what I said to Elisa when I first met her and reached out. And I must say, it took more than one reach out. It was like, trying to get a date. Brought me way back when, because I was really, really interested in making that connection. I thought they're amazing, their mission is amazing, their work is amazing, and there had to be a way to put our passions and our experience together into building something new that was amazing that we could share. And that is really the story of why we're here. So Elisa is going to share information with us at a very high level in a community deck. And then there will be opportunity for us to talk more at a later event. So without much more ado, Elisa, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I'm thrilled to get to connect with this audience and speak about this very exciting opportunity and partnership in both the venture capital and investment immigration space. So with that, Chloe Capital is a movement-based venture capital firm. And I'll ask Tom to go ahead and share my deck at this point, and we can go ahead and see that on the screen for everyone to get to experience. And so we are a movement-driven venture capital firm investing with a gender and diversity lens. We have a mission of investing in women. And next slide, please. So if men and women were actually equal as entrepreneurs, it would actually be an incredible boost to the global economy. This is a tremendous financial opportunity that is being untapped. Next slide, please. The main issue here that we face is that female founders are currently receiving only about 2% of venture capital funding, and less than 0.2% goes to women of color founders. This is a huge untapped market in the venture capital space. Next slide, please. And yet, what the data shows over and over again is that women-led companies are outperforming across almost every benchmark and in multiple studies. They actually have been shown to exit faster by a full year based on recent PitchBook data. They also generate more ROI, and in multiple studies have showed to pull in more revenue and sales and actually be way more capital efficient as well. So there are multiple data studies proving the efficacy and performance of women-led innovation companies. Next slide, please. So we could not just stand by and let this opportunity go to waste. So with that, we founded Chloe Capital as a seed stage venture capital firm to invest directly in these incredibly high performing women-led companies to make both a financial return for our investors, but also to make an incredible impact. We invest first with that gender and diversity lens in mind, because we believe that diversity and innovation are inextricably linked, and that together we can actually solve some of the world's biggest challenges and problems. Things like climate, education, health, and finance are all sectors where Chloe Capital invests. And we see that these diverse founders are innovating and coming up with unique solutions to problems in each of these areas that are creating better businesses and solving these problems in unique ways that are leading to better returns for investors. Next slide, please. Chloe Capital was founded by an all-woman team of investors, Nico Ramirez, Catherine Cartini, Erica O'Brien, and myself. And I'll tell you a little bit about how it all started. We all came together on it was in Rochester, New York. It was around the Jazz Fest in Rochester, which has a whole innovation and entrepreneurship component to it. And Catherine, at the time, was a leader of a innovation group in the upstate New York region and was working with a family office in upstate New York. And we were part of this sort of exclusive group of entrepreneurs and investors that were innovating across the state. We were there just chatting at the bar, at the Jazz Fest, and we were talking about what a struggle it was for women entrepreneurs to get funding based on some of these recent studies that had come out. And sure enough, we overhear this other gentleman, another investor at a table near us, and he starts saying something about the fact that, you know, he would love to invest in women entrepreneurs, but there just isn't enough pipeline out there. There just aren't enough of those founders out there, and there aren't enough ones that are high performing. And we start hearing this conversation, and it gets us really steamed up, because we knew from our experience as founders and entrepreneurs ourselves. My background is as a tech entrepreneur, and I'll get into that in a minute. And we knew that there were these incredible women leaders out there that we had been mentoring for years. So we knew the talent was there. We knew it wasn't a pipeline problem, and we knew there was an incredible opportunity.
It's like it was fate whispering in your ears at that right moment.
Exactly. So we knew, and I literally said to Catherine on the spot, I said, I think it's time we got into venture capital because there is an opportunity here. And we teamed up with Erica O'Brien, who had been my right-hand person in operations and finance at my tech company for over 10 years, and my Nico Ramirez, who we had connected with. She was an RIT computer science graduate from the upstate New York region, who had came our way because she was planning these huge technology expos and startup events in the upstate New York region. And so we connected with her through that community, and the four of us came together to found Chloe Capital. Kate at the time was working with that family office and helping manage a number of different seed stage angel groups across New York State, as well as several accelerator programs. So it was really a match made in heaven, and we were so thrilled to come together to form Chloe Capital. Next slide, please.
What was Kate's reaction when you shared this light bulb moment with her?
Well, it was incredible. She literally sat on the spot. She was like, yes, I'm in. When are we doing it? And we moved quickly at Chloe Capital. So literally right after that, I mean, I think we probably had legal documents set up very shortly thereafter and started setting up all of our infrastructure. And here we are nearly 4 years later with a full-blown venture capital fund and a full portfolio of incredible founders. So with that, part of the issue here, of course, is that there aren't enough women on both sides of the table, right? So at the venture capital firms that were there, that are, currently in existence, less than 12% of the decision makers are women. And this is part of the reason why we're not seeing as many women in the portfolios, and part of why this opportunity is being missed.
Why is that? I mean, I know that that's not why we're here. But do you have are any kind of theories percolating in your experience? And it doesn't have to be backed by data or anything, but why? I mean, I'm kind of curious about why there aren't women on the side of the table of financing. Why do you think?
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. So there are actually there are some women at the LP level, or the limited partner level, which is sort of the money that invests into venture capital firms, and some of the institutional investors that are out there. There certainly are some women on those teams that are represented, but still not as many. And then it kind of filters down to, at the VC firms themselves, a lot of the institutional capital mainly flows towards much, much bigger funds, and those historically have been led by men. And because venture capital in this industry, where a fund life is 10 to 12 years, it takes a long time to see any change in the industry, because if they're investing in the larger funds that have historically been run by white men out in Silicon Valley, and they're these much bigger, $1 billion and bigger funds, it takes a while to see a change in that fund structure, because once the partners are in place, once they've raised their fund, they're going for 10 to 12 years in that fund, and they're not going to hire new partners often once a fund is already started. So it takes a while to see change in this industry. Change is coming, but and people can't look away from this opportunity, because it's so clear that the future is more diverse, and the future does have these diverse innovators who are driving performance. People can't ignore that any longer. They are seeing the opportunity, and the change is happening, but it happens slowly because of the industry and the length of time it takes for these kinds of funds.
Gotcha.
Great. So with that, next slide, please. So I'll tell you just a tiny bit more about the team and our background. So starting with my partner, Catherine Cartini, she has many years in digital marketing as an entrepreneur and business owner. Also was involved in the very early days as a partner of HubSpot, where she benefited when HubSpot went public with the friends and family around there, had some IPO experience through that, and then worked for years with a family office, which was with the founder of a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, where she also helped with both investments, angel groups, accelerator programs, and several other initiatives, all focused on startup innovation and entrepreneurship. A little bit more about my background. So I am the co-founder and managing partner of Chloe Capital. I've got about 27 companies under my belt so far in terms of my overall track record. 6 of those companies I've founded or co-founded, mainly in the tech, software services and software product space. I've had 4 M&A transactions, twice on the acquiring side and twice on the side where a company I co-founded was being acquired. And I've actually am working on a fifth, right now. That is another company that one of my firms is actually acquiring another company as we speak. So working on the 5th one there. And then the other companies are, we've got 11 portfolio companies with Chloe Capital so far. And then the rest of my investments are all angel investments that I've made on my own as well. So that's just a little bit about my track record as an investor. I'm also wear several other hats, primarily as a mentor and community builder in the startup innovation ecosystem. Some of the other hats I wear are as an entrepreneur in residence at Cornell University, where I advise many of the startups from both the Cornell student and alum population and help them in their growth and help connect them with resources and funding. I also serve as an innovation advisor for New York State, where I advise on an $800 million portfolio of clean energy and climate tech innovation companies. Those are just a few of my mentorship roles. I also mentor and am an instructor for the National Science Foundation and the Innovation Core program there with several research-based startups.
These are just amazing qualifications. It struck me as just listening to your experience and Kate's. Venture capital fund managers, I would imagine, have maybe like a purely financial background, but maybe not the same sort of depth of experience in the substantive areas of expertise. Is that true?
Yes, it's interesting. Venture capital founders sometimes come from all different backgrounds. Many of them do come more from the traditional finance world. So there are a number of folks with more of a, private equity or an M&A kind of background, or folks who came from the public stock markets and moved over to private equity. There are some that are former entrepreneurs like ourselves that are, serial entrepreneurs that have founded companies. I think we have one of the more unusual and diverse backgrounds in terms of our team. And I think that's part of our competitive advantage as a firm is just the breadth of experience we have in different areas and the extent to which we've all been startup community builders and innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem builders. It means that we've built some incredible networks across the world. And it means that we can tap those networks to help support our companies with so much more than just writing a check. That's why we talk about Chloe Capital as a movement. It's because we have over 15,000 people who've joined us already on our Invest in Women tour and through some of our programs, and that have raised their hand to help out our startups with either additional funding or partnerships or helping them with talent, helping them with special discounted offers and curated boutique introductions for them. So it's taken a village and taken a really incredible network, and we've been able to build that up through our unique background.
And they're also really nice. I'll add that to the list on your CV.
Thank you so much. And then moving to the next slide, please, I will talk a little bit too about our supporting team. So in addition to the movement we've built up and myself and my co-founding partner, we have an incredible support team of, it's actually gone, we've hired a bunch of people recently, even since this slide came out. We've got about 25 people all together working with us. Many of them are part-time. There are 4 of us on the full-time team, and the rest all support us part-time. Those part-time folks include our due diligence committee, our advisory board, our analysts, our the folks who help with our media team when we do our signature programs, the folks who are helping right now with some of our systems and software and supporting our programs from an event production standpoint, and then all the folks who help support our portfolio and help with some of our software systems that help support our portfolio as well. So really incredible support team. We've also got a trusted fund administrator which helps provide an extra layer of oversight for our fund. That is a third-party accounting and bookkeeping firm. We also have in-house bookkeeping and finance through our finance team, which is headed up by Erica O'Brien, our co-founder and COO, who heads up operations finance. She's the one who came with me from my tech firm, heading operations and finance there. She supervises our in-house bookkeeper as well as our fund administrator, who provides that extra outside layer of oversight and reporting at a very professional level for our fund. And then Nico Ramirez, of course, our Chief Experience Officer, who heads up our signature accelerator programs, because in addition to the fund, we do operate accelerator programs that create incredible opportunities for women leaders. So that's just kind of a quick glimpse of the extended team and what that looks like. And next slide, please. So we like to say at Chloe Capital, we are doing well by doing good. This is kind of an incredible opportunity to both make an impact and not sacrifice a financial return. We are not a concessionary fund. There are many impact funds out there that say, well, we like to make an impact and we make a lower than average return because we're making such a big impact. At Chloe, there is no trade-off. We are making an impact and a better financial return because of, not in spite of, our gender and diversity lens. We have been recognized as industry thought leaders. We've published multiple research papers that have been published in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes. We have been leaders in this industry for many years now. In terms of our gender and diversity lens, what that means, we're investing in companies that have at least one person in the C-suite who identifies as a woman, typically has more than 20% equity in the company and is in a leadership role. Over 50% of our portfolio is also targeted to be have a person of color in the C-suite who is also in a leadership decision-making role with 20% equity or more. We have made 11 investments so far at Chloe Capital, and we have some fantastic stats in terms of our diversity and inclusion so far, including both BIPOC founders as well as LGBTQ founders across a number of different diversity stats. Next slide, please. So to us, Chloe Capital is about way more than writing a check. As I mentioned, we are service-oriented VCs who like to help our portfolio companies with way more than just capital. We tap into our accelerator programs, our incredible networks, and we also do it all with a very data-based and software-driven approach. Because we're tech entrepreneurs ourselves, we back everything up with these incredible databases that also allow us to track who's in our network and pinpoint the exact right person to help each founder at exactly the right time in their journey with whatever services they need at that time, whether it's closing a deal with a major partner, or whether it's getting a new client on board, whether it's hiring talent, or whether it's, of course, preparing for an acquisition, which is when we see a return for our investors. And we are helping companies already plan for that, those exits, by connecting them with potential strategic acquirers right from day one when we start working with them. Next slide, please. Our signature programs are part of our competitive advantage at Chloe Capital. These programs, we partner with foundations and universities and governments. And through these programs, we offer these incredible opportunities for our women founders to connect with a cohort of other founders that they can bond with and actually help mentor each other. We also connect them with other industry mentors, other co-investors who come in alongside us to raise these bigger rounds. Companies that are coming out of our programs typically raise an average of $1.5 million each at the seed stage, and they create 9 jobs on average within 6 to 12 months of coming out of one of our signature programs. So we've got very good results at helping amplify and accelerate these founders' progress through these partnerships. Our next program coming up is called Diversity in Climate Tech. It is in partnership with Cornell University and with NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. The program that's following that will be a partnership with RK Mellon Foundation and Ascender, an incubator in Pittsburgh. We are very excited to be partnering with RK Mellon Foundation to invest in women in that Pennsylvania region as part of that program. So those are just a few examples of the signature programs. We've done them all across the country, and we are planning to do them all over the world. We've done 10 of them already to date.
Lisa, those
Next
are
slide, please.
incredible partners that you just mentioned, Cornell and RK Mellon, other universities, major players in education and in philanthropy. How does Chloe connect with them? Are they like me, just catching on to your movement through various media channels, or are you seeking them out? Are they seeking you? How does that work?
It is a mix of both, Carolyn. It is through the fact that we've been community developers for so long. So even prior to founding Chloe, I was serving as a co-founder and COO of Women 2.0, which is an international global network of women technologists with a network of over 1 million people. So, and before that, I was leading a tech company and traveling all around the world for my tech company and connecting with these incredible networks. So even prior to the movement we've been building with Chloe and the 15,000 folks who have joined us on our, what we call our Invest in Women tour, even before that, we were building these networks for many years. So there are many people that we reached out to from our networks to say, hey, would you like to partner with us on a program? But in some cases, people found us. You know, they found us through our website, through our programs that we have already done, through our presence. I'm actually astounded by how many people do know about our brand, even though we are still a fairly young, 4-year-old VC firm. I run into complete strangers all the time, even at huge tech conferences, where they say, "Oh, you're with Chloe Capital? I've been following your journey."
So great.
So it's pretty incredible the reach we have with our networks. I'm always astounded by that. And so yes, people do find us organically as well. Folks like ECMC Group and Foundation, which partnered with us on a trio of programs about the future of work and education. We met through another conference and event, started building up a relationship, and then literally over a year or so, we're able to, craft this whole incredible program and tour as an incredible collaboration. But they really are deep partnerships. And we're very proud of them, and it's taken us years to build those relationships.
Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, this is just a sample of one of our programs and how we've even attracted celebrity ambassadors on our investment tour. Suzanne Cryer is from an incredible hit HBO show. It's called Silicon Valley, about the startup world. Some of you may have seen it. And she actually plays a venture capitalist on TV. And so it was really fun to get to bring a celebrity like that to our event. She's actually also a Yale educated actress and is incredibly knowledgeable about the VC space and hilariously funny to boot. So we have celebrity ambassadors like that also have been so moved by this movement that they join us on our tour and help connect with our startup companies. And these are also people who then again help advance our companies with their networks even further. So we do use every resource at our disposal across our programs and tour to help these founders succeed and grow and help them get a bigger platform from a marketing and visibility standpoint so they can raise more capital and advance the next level with their companies. And so next slide, please. So this is a little bit of a story about our Future of Work and Education series that we just completed with ECMC Foundation. We deployed just with that trio of programs alone, we deployed over 1.25 million to some incredible founders who are leading the way in future of work and education. We did this prior to the pandemic, but I will say as VCs, it is our job to be prescient and see the future. And that is what we did in this case, because we were then hit by a global pandemic following that. And it turns out that the future of work and education became incredibly critical spaces to have companies at the forefront of. We were very fortunate in that some of our companies were already leading the way in that space and were able to actually step in to be incredibly helpful leaders during this crisis. We've seen incredible testaments to women's leadership across the crisis, and seeing how some of them were innovating in healthcare, in nursing, in education, in terms of education and remote work platforms, and even in sustainable manufacturing. We had companies who were making masks and using their manufacturing facilities to make masks when they were needed. So really incredible stories of some of these women stepping up during the crisis and providing services and technologies that really helped out and helped make things better for so many people who were suffering. And next slide, please. And this is just a bit about our track record, and then I'll wrap up soon to turn it back over very shortly to Carolyn. So some of our traction to date, we launched just about 4 years ago. We did our very first accelerator program, and we taught a whole bunch of women investors about angel investing in the space, made our very first investment in a mother of 5 Hispanic and Latino-led company that was really advancing in the software space. And then we moved on to creating our second vehicle, which we made our next 5 investments with, and we set out on our national tour to invest in women, doing 5 more accelerator programs during that time. We then launched Fund 1, which is our current funding vehicle, and we've already made several more investments in Fund 1, as well as even some follow-on investments in some of our former portfolio companies as well. We've already closed on some capital in Fund 1 and are actually actively deploying from the fund now. And we are using that fund to make investments for our next few programs like diversity and climate tech, which I mentioned, and our program with RK Mellon, which isn't even on the slide yet because it's so new. We'll also be doing an impact investing workshop through a partnership with NYSTAR coming up later this month. So we have been very, very busy these last few years building the firm, building our signature accelerator programs, going on tour, and taking our tour 100% virtual during the pandemic, helping our portfolios through that crisis and helping them help others, as we mentioned, and mentoring everyone through all of it. So that is a little bit about our track record and where we are now, which is investing actively out of Fund 1 with some of these incredible new companies that have already doubled in value since we started investing in them. Next slide, please. I'll just talk about 1 or 2 of our portfolio companies here to give you just a little spotlight and quick glimpse. Beck Chapin is the co-founder of Node, which is an advanced sustainable construction firm that helps build backyard studios that can be used as quarantine shelters, as home offices, as studios, or even for affordable housing. This company is very exciting for a number of reasons. The founder went to both Y Combinator and Techstars and the SoftBank Emerge Accelerator. Founder has personally built over 300 buildings and has a deep expertise in sustainable construction. They've received multiple patents on their sustainable construction processes, and they've already tripled in value since we invested and are now going through a merger with a major firm in the sustainable construction industry that is already merging with them, and together they will be able to distribute their products so much faster. So this partnership is really going to allow them to accelerate incredibly to the next level. So we're very excited about the growth of this company and the potential for this founder moving forward. Next slide, please.
Go Beck.
Yes. Jana Westbrook of Provider Pool is leading the way in the healthcare space with a background in nursing leadership. She saw some of the challenges that were faced in staffing for healthcare institutions like long-term care homes and hospitals. And through those staffing challenges that she saw, she invented a better way of approaching it, created a software platform, partnered with her software and CTO co-founder to build out a tech platform to solve some of the problems that she saw firsthand in helping connect nurses with the right opportunities in staffing, and also helping them with upskilling to the next level to help with some of the nursing shortages and the staffing shortages that she was seeing in the industry through her leadership. This platform is on track to get over 2 million in revenue just in this year alone, and she's just getting started. So we are seeing some real potential in this founder and are very excited about her leading in the future of healthcare. She's based in St. Louis, Missouri. And next slide, please.
Go Jenna.
This is Rihanna Lynn of Journey Foods, another one of our incredible breakout successes from the fund. Journey Foods is a software as a service platform that is innovating in the food manufacturing, research, and development space. So she partners with huge food companies, folks like Walmart, and helps with their R&D platform and their supply chain and nutrition. And she helps with that by being a leader in the nutrition space. She's already a thought leader. She's spoken globally about nutrition and about access to affordable and sustainable foods. And through that has developed this incredible data and AI-based platform to help with that R&D processes around food manufacturing.
I really feel like this is real fundamental, and I would love to see more funding and more in this. I mean, this is about what we put in our bodies every day, and we need more consciousness about it, I think. I'll get off my
No, absolutely. She's innovating in a lot of really important areas, and has gotten incredible traction already as a company. This one has also more than doubled in value since we came in, and is also on track to do several million in revenue as well, just this year alone. Next slide, please.
Go Rihanna.
Yeah. And the last company I'll mention here, last but not least, and there's obviously several others in the portfolio, is Nanwei Gong, who is innovating with Figure 8. This is an MIT-based, research-based startup. So very scientific and engineering background. She has a PhD and is innovating in the musculoskeletal health space with both sensors and a software platform for better diagnostics and treatment of musculoskeletal health injuries, things like whiplash when you're in a car accident, anything that needs physical therapy. Incredible platform, incredibly savvy go-to-market approach. I see a lot of academic and science and research-based founders through some of my mentoring that I do. And it is rare, let me tell you, usually you see a scientific and research-based founder and they've just got their head, in academia and don't necessarily have the business skills to also pull off running a business. So many of them partner with another CEO or two to build out their team, and that works great. In this case, we didn't need to, because Nanwei, she's already built out an incredible team, but she also is an experienced entrepreneur and has already sold her previous business to Google. So she's already a serial entrepreneur, even though she's still young and just getting started, and is also someone who actually has incredible business acumen and sales and marketing and business skills and finance skills. So she is really truly the full package of someone who also has that engineering and technical background and also can really operate a business with incredible acumen. Yeah, I was going to say, it's like me, it's the rare thing. And you see it more, I think, with women founders, in fact, that we are these natural multitaskers and naturally, tend to be good in a lot of different areas. So we don't see as much of that sort of really narrow focus. It's because we're used to juggling a little bit of everything as female founders. And I think that that really comes through with really multi-talented founders like this. We used to call it in the theater world, which I did some theater when I was back in high school and college. We used to call it something called a triple threat, where someone can act, dance, and sing and do it all, right? So Nanwei is one of those triple threat founders who can really do it all. And next slide, please.
Go Nanwei.
Yes, we've of course been recognized in the press and the media because we love to make sure to sing it from the rooftops what our founders are doing and how they're leading the way in all of these industries. And we like to help them advance their companies through that press and media. Next slide, please. And finally, this is just our contact information, so you can get in touch with us afterwards. You can also always reach us at info@chloecapital.com and on our website at chloecapital.com so that you can learn more. And with that, I'll turn it over to Carolyn to talk more about the immigration aspect of this and how we can partner together to make an impact and help realize your immigration goals as well.
Well, I can't follow that act. And I got to tell you that I feel like that's saying something, because I've not been known for my humility, let's just say. So Elisa, thank you so much. That's just incredible and inspiring. And I love our conversations, and we're just going to keep talking and learning more. So thank you in advance. Okay, so allow me please to share my humble presentation. And here we are. Oops. So I'm going to talk about the more mundane, wonky aspects of the investment immigration, the immigration part of it. And I'll say a bit about myself because I have to. I know that a lot of you know me already. And of course, about the E-2 visa process and requirements. General stuff. Okay. All right, so about me, my favorite subject. So I've been super blessed in my career, and I must thank everybody who has helped me along the way, my family, my mentors, my clients, of course. I've spent 15 plus years in the investment immigration advising space and have enjoyed a good deal of recognition. Who would have thunk? Recognized in Best Lawyers and International Who's Who, 50 Outstanding Asian Americans in Business, which I was particularly proud to be recognized in because I'm a lawyer, and to be recognized as a business person as well was wonderful. I have served as 4-term chair of the American Immigration Lawyers National Eb5 Committee, and I currently serve as legislative counsel to Invest in USA, which is the premier US EB5 industry trade association. Very proud of all of those. So of course, it's all about where the rubber meets the road. All of those accolades and recognitions are lovely. What they're based on is my experience and scholarship. But here's a little bit about my experience. I have helped my US project clients raise over 2.5 billion in immigrant investor capital alone. So these are large scale projects, also some small ones, and the capital gets stacked with other capital sources, their equity and senior debt. But the 2.5 billion refers to the investment immigration capital alone. And these US projects have cleared over 1.8 billion through the entire immigration process as represented by the investor. So the EB5 process in particular is very long, it's 3 stages. And at the end of the day is when the investors and their family members get removal of the conditions on their US permanent residency. And so that number represents the number of investors who have been through the very last stage of that process. So that's a particularly proud moment in projects and councils' lives. I've advised on and prepared thousands of immigration investor filings, and I'm an industry leader and advocate, just using my experience on the ground and helping shape a better investment immigration program for US projects and for foreign direct investors. E-2 visa, so let's talk E-2 visas. Why the E-2 visa? Let us count the ways. Let's. First of all, there's no quota, there's no backlog. Everyone in immigration space knows that these are the things that we all struggle with in advising our clients and managing the expectations and the timeframes. It's long, and it mainly arises from the fact that we have a quota. These are limited resources, and the demand, thankfully, people want to be in the United States and be a part of our society and our dream making machine. But we have limited numbers available for the demand, and hence we have backlogs. The E-2 though is quota free and backlog free. It's quick, relatively speaking. So if you're looking for a result in a few weeks or even a couple of months, that's not going to happen. But the standard is years, right? This is the immigration process. So it's relative to that quick. It's months typically and not years. It's one step, it's one application, typically with the US consulate abroad, not 2, as is the case with most employment-based green card applications, or 3, as is in the case with my beloved EB5 immigration process. It's a 5-year visa in most instances. So once an investor clears the process and a visa issues, it's valid for 5 years and it's renewable. Low investment threshold, again, relatively speaking. So in the EB5 space, which does lead to permanent residence and a green card if all goes well, the minimum threshold is 500,000 or 900,000, and we'll touch on that in a moment. With the E-2, the investment threshold is really determined by the business itself. And so it's variable, and it can be $1 million or more if it's a high capital intensive endeavor. It can be much less than that, again, depending on the nature of the investment and the business. There's no maximum duration. Those of us familiar with H-1Bs, for example, our workforce immigration visa, there's just a statutory maximum, and there are workarounds around that. But with the E-2s, we don't have to worry about that at all because there is no maximum duration. It can be renewed indefinitely as long as the underlying criteria continue to be met on the investor and on the company side. There's no need to have an unabandoned foreign residence. The other visa category holders, F1 students, B1, B2 visitors, know that to get that visa, you have to demonstrate that you've got a home abroad that you're not abandoning and that you will return to at the end of your authorized stay in the United States. The E-2 doesn't have that restriction. It is a temporary visa, and you have to have the intent to return upon the conclusion of the purpose of your visa. But you don't have to have a home that's unabandoned. You can actually sell it and plan on being in the United States for a very, very long time, and that is not the problem. So why E-2 visa for backlogged investors? And what I mean by backlogged investors is investors who are looking at a multi-year backlog if they are considering coming into the sister visa category, the EB5, or whether they might already be in the process. They may already be in the backlog. And at the moment, this backlog, a very lengthy backlog, applies to investors from China and Vietnam, again, as a function of our quota system and also specific quotas relevant to per country application of the quota. So this is from State Department statistics shared November 2020, and this is the weight for investors from China. And this is the weight for investors from Vietnam. Now, these numbers have to be taken with a large grain of salt, I think, because, and there are qualifiers that the State Department also publishes with these numbers, because these are projections. And we all know that projections are not, they're not based on actual data that is live at that moment. So I would say these are conservative estimates and future projections, but the point is these are long waits. And why E-2 visa though for all investors? The E-2 visa makes sense even if you're an investor that's not stuck in a backlog or facing a backlog to come in because of these other uncertainties and developments. We have had in the EB5 space in 2019 a huge sea change in the form of rules, regulations that came down in late 2019, EB5 Immigrant Investor Modernization regulations, which changed the investment amount from 500,000, which is where it was at the TEA level or the targeted employment area level, the minimum level, from 500,000, which is where it was for a couple of decades, bumping way up, nearly double that to 900,000 at the minimum level. And that was definitely a damper in the overall demand. We have had very, very recently, June 22nd, as a result of litigation, a reversion back to the pre-modernization regulations level of investment in EB5, but it is very unclear how long this window will stay open because we have very good reason to think that this is not a position that will stay. We know that the government opposes a reversion of the program rules as it was before the modernization regulations came online in 2019. That and a lot of other huge factors in play in the EB5 space, including legislation and including, very sadly for me and for our clients and the EB5 industry generally, we have a program sunset again as of June 30th of this year. The regional center aspect of the EB5 program is statutorily temporary. It has to be reauthorized by Congress every time it lapses or sunsets. And it's been a bit of a battle, as you know, members of our audience who've been tuning into our EB5 webcasts and who are in the industry as stakeholders. It's been a very dramatic roller coaster ride for the last 5 years with respect to managing program reauthorizations and sunsets. And at the moment, again, sadly, we have a lapse with no visible vehicle ahead of us with which we can have some assurance that the program will be reauthorized. By the way, we're all actively working on resolving that, but this is the state of play at this moment. And so we turn to the E-2 visa, which is a permanent part of our Immigration and Nationality Act. We don't have those stomach-churning uncertainties that we in EB5 have had to deal with for the last 5 years, and really more. So it makes sense. It's, yes, definitely something that we will want to consider if you're already an EB5 investor as you wait out the backlog. For investors who are looking for interim solutions for themselves, their family members, the E-2 visa just makes sense to know more about. If an investor is a new investor and avoiding the backlog, you know what's ahead and you don't want to go into it. The E-2 investor visa makes perfect sense, again, to know about, to consider. There's no threat of EB5 backlogs springing up in the future. There are per country cap legislative moves that we're very watchful of, because that can change the landscape of backlogs such that it's no longer limited to Chinese and Vietnamese investors, but it could apply worldwide. So we're always looking for that. But with E-2s, you're not looking at that prospective threat. And of course, there's no threat of sunset, because again, the E-2 is thankfully a permanent part of our immigration system. And yet it can convert to a green card as well. It's temporary. It is a non-immigrant, to use our technical term, versus an immigrant, which is the term we use for permanent residents. It's a non-immigrant or temporary visa solution. However, as mentioned earlier, it is renewable indefinitely, as long as, again, there's the underlying basis for it. And it can be converted to permanent residence if we have the planning and the structures in place, particularly at the time of the initial investment, so that we're anticipating that move to convert later on. E-2 visa requirements. First and foremost, we need a treaty. We have to have a US treaty of friendship and commerce between the United States and the country of nationality of the prospective E-2 investor. And we have about 84, 86, the number grows, treaties in place. And so, for example, we have treaties with Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Taiwan, Singapore, Japan, most of the Schengen countries. We do not have a treaty with areas where we have demand for E-2 and investment visas, including Lebanon, China, Vietnam, India, and Nigeria. So what do we do with these incredible markets where there is intense and active demand for an investment immigration solution to the United States? Well, thank you for asking. This is where citizenship by investment comes in, or the CBI solution, which we do not handle. Our practice is limited to US immigration laws only. However, there are wonderful and very experienced CBI professionals with whom we work very, very closely, who offer this CBI solution, for example, to Grenada. Grenada has an established, really industry-setting CBI program where investors can go into the program and acquire citizenship by investment. And you'd want to talk to the CBI professionals, but they have this process down pat, even under COVID conditions. So at the successful conclusion of the CBI process, you would, as an investor, have Grenada is an E2 treaty country. You would acquire citizenship by investment, and then you would then be eligible to apply for the E2 visa. E2 visa requirements, more technical stuff here. The investor must make a substantial investment, but again, this is not benchmarked to a hard standard. It's relative to the cost of forming or buying the E2 company. The investor must develop and direct the E2 company, so the investor can't be entirely passive. So this is a requirement that must be managed and met. The investor must own at least 50% of the E2 company, so they can't hold a minority ownership in the company, because the company also has to have the required nationality conferred by the ownership, at least on a majority basis, or 50% by the E2 treaty national. The E2 company, unlike Eb5, has no job creation requirement. You don't have to create 10 jobs for the investment. However, it does have to be real and operating. The capital can't be simply sitting in an account, particularly one that's controlled by the investor holding at least the 50% interest. So it has to be deployed, and it has to be working. E2 company it has to be for profit. It has to generate income. It has to have the prospect of generating income or significant economic contribution. Has to be commercial. So this is a possible timeline, folks. This is really illustrative and please not meant to tell you that this is the time frame, and hence all of my qualifications. It's subject to COVID variables. It's illustrative only, qualified and subject to lots and lots of variables. It's illustrative just to show you it can be quick, quicker relatively. So let's say June 2021. An investor applies for Grenada CBI. As I mentioned, the process appears to be quite efficient. So as early as October 21, the investor could potentially have a Grenada passport. And so that means that that investor, particularly if the process for the E2 were started beforehand, well in advance, could apply for the E2 visa as soon as that required nationality is captured. And then under normal circumstances, that investor would be scheduled for an interview at the appropriate consulate. But this is where all of these qualifications mainly come in. We all know that due to the pandemic, consulates are not operating normally. Of course not, because there are country conditions that have to be abided with for the safety of applicants and staff. So we're not operating normally, and that is what really causes delay. That's the bottom line. But normally, the approval of the E2 visa would follow if eligibility requirements are met, and generally across the board, the approval rates for E2s are quite high. It exceeds 80%. And then you would enter the United States. F1 OPT to E2. This is worth just touching on, really, because, and this is just something we talk a lot about with clients and prospective clients who have children who are studying in F1 and students themselves who are here on F1, which is the visa status for students. And OPT refers to optional practical training, which is the way that F1 students get at least a year of work authorization after graduation. So this is, again, right, all the provisos, possible F1 OPT to E2 timeline. And what this is really, the purpose of this is really to give folks hope and a sense of, you know, you could try thinking outside the box. All is not lost, in other words, if you are rejected in the H-1B lottery. So F1 students who are seeking work authorization after graduating from a US university, a lot of them will be applying for H-1B, as I mentioned before, the traditional workhorse visa. And they will have applied for it in the spring before graduating. And they will know it's a lottery, and the students will know, the students will know whether you're rejected in the H-1B lottery or not very shortly thereafter. And so it can be a moment of dejection, particularly if your OPT is only for 12 months. If a student is in sciences, technology, engineering, and math, in the fields that that Chloe is in and that Elisa is very, very familiar with, then you have more time. So we worry less if you're in that bucket, because you just have 24 extra months. But if you only have 12 months, if you're an artist like me, as I like to think of myself, this could be dejecting and concerning. But this is where the CBI to E2 possibility could come in. So you could, student, apply for your CBI and E2, or start the process here after knowing and licking your wounds after the lottery process. And based on our earlier timeline, probably not now because of COVID, unless things change, which I'm open to, could potentially obtain an E2 visa, or at least get the process very, very far along before your 12-month OPT expires. And you have 60 months after OPT expires. So even more time to make further progress on your E2 visa application. So again, the point is, don't despair entirely. The E2 visa solution, CBI to E2, even if you're not from a treaty country, could be a solution that you could be thinking about. So the E2 flow, this is where Carolyn Lee PLLC, my firm, could come in to support that investor. And we're very proud of the comprehensive and proprietary client service that we have designed and continue to refine. And we split our service into two categories based on the kind of business involved. If it's a traditional E2 business, we have a service line. And if it's a hybrid E2 business, we have a slightly different service line. In both instances, designed to be comprehensive. The traditional E2 business is what the E2 visa is designed for. It's for entrepreneurs, really, who want to start a new business or purchase a new business in line with their experience, often with the business that they already run and manage abroad. And so active business management is perfectly okay. They want that because they're entrepreneurs. The hybrid E2 business solution is more designed for investors, E2 investors, who certainly want to invest in a company, ready, willing, and able, and must develop and direct. However, we note that the develop and direct requirement does not require 9 to 5. You got to be there, or like me, 6 in the morning to midnight, like Elisa, like other founders and entrepreneurs. One has to be engaged, can't be passive, but it does not require the level of engagement typically associated with entrepreneurs. So this is what we call really a solution for investors as opposed to entrepreneurs. And then our flow, the chart looks very, very similar, because the point here is that we've designed our service to be comprehensive, especially if an investor has gone through the CBI process, especially if the investor's already gone through the Eb5 investor process. This could be the third round of investment immigration. So we're very sympathetic to that. And we want to make this process as painless, as fluid for the investor as we absolutely can. We would rather do it for the investor than have the investor do it on their own. So that's the goal. We would assemble the pieces. We would assemble the required professionals, including, of course, the business plan writer and other support professionals, particularly if there's a transaction involved. We would prepare the business plan with outside professionals. We would file the E2 visa application and prepare the client for the interview via Zoom or via Teams. taking advantage of the technologies that have really risen to the fore and allowing for these meetings and communications to take place. And after the interview, we again meet with the client and we debrief and we talk about the next steps. So the idea is to handhold this investor throughout the journey, throughout the part of the journey where we get them to the end. That is truly, truly the goal. And so that is the conclusion of my piece of it. And I just want to thank Chloe Capital and Elisa for bearing with me in all senses and for joining us today. And I know that I probably have run over our time limit. So I will take 1 or 2 questions for the good of those gathered, and then we will close, but be available for questions to be written into us. We want to engage with you, so please send us questions and we will again provide our information for that purpose in just a moment. Can an EB5 applicant who already applied apply for E2? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And it would make sense for a number of EB5 applicants to do so. I will invite you to contact me and we will talk about this in greater depth. But the short answer is absolutely and yes. Great. And Elisa is giving us the information, the email address to contact her, info@chloecapital.com. Let's just take at least one more question. Okay. All right. Well, maybe not. Elisa, there aren't words. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have so much to learn from you and from the work of Chloe. I am thrilled to have worked with you these many months, and there's work ahead of us as well. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Honored to be here and excited about our partnership and excited to meet all of you. Thank you for joining us in the audience today.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.